Hey there, everybody. All right, we are here to talk about using professional reviews for collection development, and I'm Steve Tatro, Dr. T Loves Books, and hopefully you're going to be able to take something away from this that's going to help you as you're putting your collections together. And with us tonight, we've got some awesome folks. Amanda, why don't you jump on in?
All right, my name is Amanda Jones, and I'm a teacher librarian here in Watson, Louisiana, right outside of Baton Rouge. I am a 21-year educator, and I've been a school librarian for 7 years. And take it away, Deb.
Hi, everybody. I'm Deb Zeman. I am in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at a middle school. This is my, I believe, 7th year going into the library. My 23rd year, I think, in education. And prior to that, I was in publishing for about 10 years.
And Wendy couldn't be here with us in person, but I do have a little hello from Wendy.
Missing the audio on there?
Yeah, the audio's not going.
Oh, y'all don't hear the audio? I'm sorry. Let me try that again. I'm sorry, that is completely my fault. Share audio.
Actually spending time with them, planning an awesome. Hi, everyone.
All right, do you hear the audio now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Wendy Prey. I am a Texas librarian, and I am incredibly happy to be with you all here in video. I'm actually right now part of the conference planning committee for TLA's next conference. So I am actually spending time with them, planning an awesome conference for you guys in 2023. So if you guys want to come on over in April of 2023, you're more than welcome. We just finished looking over some proposals, and so it is going to be great things. So a little bit about me before we move forward. This is my 7th year in the library and my 15th year in education. So I've been a librarian in middle school my entire career, and I've been a teacher in both high school ELA and also middle school ELA. So that's a little bit of my background, and I can't wait to share with Amanda, Steve, and Deborah all about book reviews.
All right, so go back to our slide deck. Okay, so I guess we're going to start off talking about why you want to be proactive versus reactive. I mean, I think that kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Definitely want to be just, we all know what's going on out there. So having that little bit of foreknowledge is definitely going to be, having that in your back pocket that you can say, hey, here's why this is on our shelves, and being able to say, look at what these people have to say about it. That's going to save you a lot of trouble later.
Yeah. And it's, I always tell people when we're talking about collection development and using professional reviews, I always say a good rule of thumb is to have 2 professional reviews for, and it does get a little harder when you're talking about manga to find those professional reviews. But that would be my suggestion. So when I'm talking about collection development and professional reviews, I say 2. What do y'all say? Do your districts specify?
My district requires 2. And yeah, graphic novels, manga, those are definitely, it's almost a judgment call, really. Most of the time they have 1, sometimes they don't. And what I do is I'll look and see what other campuses have. And if I see at least 2 of the campuses have it, then I will go ahead and I will put it on and just keep researching as I go, because these kids eat these things up.
That's where I think manga, we might want to think about in terms of professional, looking at, we know some people in the library world that are pretty professional with their reviews of manga. And that might be a good resource when, you're not able to find it in some of those other places we might traditionally go.
Yeah. One of my reps with Mackin, who we'll talk about later, he's like the graphic novel guru. And if you say, Twan, I've got $10,000 I need from ages, 5th to 8th grade, find stuff for me, he will pull it. But then again, I can go and I can weed out what I might have, what I don't think would fit, what would be better for high school. So don't go with those people that know what they're talking about.
I know I'll look at Sarah Smith from California. She's got the graphic library website. and then Ashley Hawkins from New York, and then is Ashley's New York, and then Jillian Roots from New York, also manga. I go by theirs a lot also. So it's not a professional journal review, but they are professionals that I respect, so I do go by theirs also.
And
they are the ones that are certified.
They're certified, and they're members of the Graphic Novels Roundtable for ALA. So, when we say, professional, like you said, maybe not in a professional journal, but they know what they're doing. So I think that's a good resource.
Exactly. And we are going to mention a few problematic sources of reviews. So let's jump into that before we start talking about what we use for ourselves. So Steve, you want to start talking about Goodreads? What do you think about Goodreads?
Yeah, this whole conversation that we're having tonight kind of came about after I saw a post on, I think it was on ALA's member forum, and somebody had been talking about, no, it was LMNet, asking for, where do you guys get your reviews from? And she had posted a response that had, I like to use Goodreads and I like to use this. And I was looking at this list that people had submitted of, here's where I get my reviews. I was like, oh no. Because there are professional reviews out there. So one of the ones that they started off with was Goodreads. And yes, Goodreads has reviews, but the reviews are from people who just read the book. Like it's the Wikipedia of book reviews. Anybody who wants can put anything they want. And the star ratings, anybody can put anything they want. So I don't feel like using Goodreads as a go-to is a great idea. Like if you're looking for what's this book about, or you want to get some personal insight into it, maybe that's a place you go look. But as a main source for looking at what we're going to put in the catalog, maybe not so much.
Yeah. I agree. Go ahead, Amanda.
Well, I was going to say, I think what Steve said, like for personal use, like I'll go and look to see what other people are saying about it for personal use. But definitely, like a 5-year-old can go on there and write a review for a book.
Exactly. Well, and sometimes when I go on, I like to, the people you make friends with, which are other librarians, I go on sometimes to sneak, just a peek, to get a taste, because I really want to use my own judgment. Sometimes the very first review is the actual author. Book's not out yet, but I'm giving it 5 stars. Whoa, no. So yeah, that, and again, anybody can type on there. You don't know, it's a Joe Schmo that's typing it.
Kind of the same thing with Amazon, like I will go on to see what other people are saying, but do you even have to be a verified buyer on Amazon to leave a review? Like you could just go leave a bad review. And I remember when there was that Lawn Boy controversy, people were getting the 2 books confused. There was the adult Lawn Boy, and I've blanked out on that author's name. And then there's Lawn Boy by Gary Paulson. Right. And people were going under Gary Paulson's and like trashing it. And they're like, this is not a book for kids. And I'm like, yes, it is. Like anybody can go in and type. So Amazon, I would think, would be the same as Goodreads. It's crowdsourced.
Yeah. And not to mention, you can have so many bots on Amazon. There's actually a review checker you can get for an extension for your browser that shows like how many of these are bots. And Amazon just all over the place, like F ratings on, how are these reviews? So again, maybe not so much for our professional collections.
Right. Crazy.
Common Sense Media.
No. My issue with Common Sense Media is they do not have certified educators on there. These are moms and dads and even kids going on. And I'm just like, no. If you want this to be taken seriously, you need to get those certified librarians who have the background and who know collection development policy. So no. No.
No, I'll do it like again for personal use. Like I'll go in, like if my child wants to, and I'll let my kid read whatever she wants really, but I'll go in and they'll say like there's this many parts of language and violence and whatever. I used to do that when she was like real little, just my own personal, but I would never use that in a professional setting. It's kind of like Goodreads and Amazon. When you say, Steve, same thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that they've got kid reviews and adult reviews side by side and they never match up. Like right off the bat, I'm like, clearly there's no standard. There's no rubric. There's just whatever people feel like putting. So
now I don't know what Booklooks is. What is
Never heard of it.
Booklooks?
So Booklooks is a new one that Mothers for Liberty put together. That is, yeah.
I did hear about that. I did hear about that.
Yeah. So they've got a
No.
content rating system, but there's no real explanation of how they're arriving at whatever they're putting on their books. So if you're looking at Booklooks, maybe you want to look someplace else.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'd stay far away from that one.
Uh-huh.
But some favorites of ours that we do love to use for our school libraries for professional sources of reviews. One would be Kirkus. Steve, you want to start off talking about Kirkus?
I love Kirkus. Kirkus has been my go-to this past year. I went through and literally looked up every book in our library to try and figure out what was going to be our middle school collection, what was going to be our high school collection. Because Kirkus, when they have recent reviews, they have an age range sort of suggested on it. And it tends to be a little bit conservative in their age range, which I actually like because that way I can sort of make sure I'm not going to get pushback. If I say, Kirkus says it's for 12-year-olds, I know I'm going to be okay. If it says it's for 14-year-olds, I might put it in the middle school collection, but I might also get some pushback on that. So personally, that's been really handy for me. And also, I don't have a Kirkus review yet. I'm get a Kirkus subscription yet. I'm getting one this fall because I feel terrible that I have been using them for 4 months, 5 months, and not paying for them. But you can do a Google search with Kirkus review and the title you're looking for, and you can find it and see it for nothing. So
you can
very handy
even
resource.
set up an account without purchasing, and you can start a list. That's what I started with my Taysha's titles. I went and I added it in there. So at least I'm like, okay, if anybody asks me, well, here you go. And I do know that there are some districts that are getting rid of it, which I think is a shame because we only have so many professional journals that we can use for reviews. And, when you go back to titles that might be 5, 6, 7 years old, we didn't have all this way back when. We need these now. So it's, luckily my district is keeping it. I'm excited about that.
I did hear that there were some districts in Texas and I was confused about that because it's a very trusted and reliable source.
Yeah. It's a gold standard.
Exactly. And I'll use, I don't specifically go to Kirkus, but when I use other websites that I'm going to talk about later, like Tidal Wave and Mackin, I look at their Kirkus reviews when I'm on their website. So I use them all the time. All right. So School Library Journal.
I love this one.
Okay, Deb, you start.
It does have its pros and its cons, but everybody is a school librarian. They know their collection. They know their demographics. And you don't have to agree with them, but they are also good with the age range too. Because if it's a middle school librarian, they're going to hit it and say, yes, this could be good for high school for lower level readers. So we're going to give it 7 through 10 as opposed to 6 through 8. And the other thing is I have my own personal account because, they did a great deal during COVID. And I think I got the digital edition for like $59. So I like it because I can import it into Notability. And then I'm just taking notes and circling and highlighting and everything. Because that's what I would do with the physical copy, but I can still do it on my iPad. So that's what I really like about it. And they have just great articles in there. Amanda was the school librarian of the year for them. So, I enjoy that one. And it's nice to get the jump on titles too for my lists for the fall or for the spring.
They do put out some really excellent lists in there. And I kind of like how y'all said the Kirkus is a gold standard. Like I think School Library Journal is a gold standard too. Like they hit it pretty right on with what I would say are age ranges and grades. I'll look at the reviews and I think they're pretty spot on with what I would think also just for myself. Steve, do you use School Library Journal?
I do. I use it when Deb was talking about the lists. I literally have 400 emails from myself that are School Library Journal lists of these books and those books and the other books. Like it's just a great resource to be able to go and I was throwing stuff right in my Mackin list straight from the School Library Journal list because they, like you said, they put together excellent collections, excellent by topic, theme, grade. It's so easy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do that too. Like I'll look at their list and I go straight and put it in my Mackin list or my file list or my whatever wish list I have going at the time. All right, Hornbook. And I feel like I had a video from Wendy. Did I miss? No, I don't think I did.
No,
Not
you're
yet.
good.
Okay. So Hornbook. Who wants to talk about Hornbook?
I mean, Hornbook I know of, and I've used it once or twice, and I can't say that it's like my go-to, but I know it's out there. I know it's been used. I have used it in the past, actually, when I was a teacher, and I was trying to get some books approved for some curriculum. Hornbook was one of the ones that I ended up pulling some reviews from. So it's there, and I kind of feel like maybe I need to go to it more, but it's certainly not usually my first go-to.
Mhm.
Say for me, like not my first go-to, but I feel like they're pretty concise. You know, like it's a simplified review and you'll get like exactly what it's about, and the age ranges are usually pretty spot on.
But you gotta have a subscription to it.
Yeah, which
It's
is
not
what
like Kirkus, where you can just go and there's a review. You have to have a subscription.
See, and now I like we're going to talk about Mackin later, like Mackin and Follett and Permabound and Bound to Stay Bound. They'll include Hornbook in some of their reviews, so I really like using that.
Mm-hmm.
Publishers Weekly. Do y'all use Publishers Weekly?
If it's in Follett or Mackin or something, okay, it backs me up because being middle school, there's that fine line of what we can have. And if I see 4 reviews, this being one of them, where 2 are 9 through 12, but 2 are 7 through 12, it might be one of these. And that's my saving grace to get that high school book into my collection. So it's just like a nice addition to have.
I think that's true of both Hornbook and Publishers Weekly, is that they're professional reviewing locations that we can go to. And maybe they're not our first go-tos, but especially as things are getting a little more sticky in the library world, knowing like, hey, here's 2 other resources you can draw on. I think that's just an important thing to kind of bear in mind as we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with y'all. It's like it's not my go-to, but if it'll be there to back up and make a decision, help me make a decision about something.
And again, Follett and Mackin are good about pulling them in.
So Texas Lone Star list. Now, Deb, did you want to talk about Texas?
Sure. I can do both Lone Star and Tasha. So
okay, let me play this quick video that because Wendy had something to say about it, and then I want you to build on what Wendy's saying about it. Let me click on this. Actually, sorry, y'all. My internet is so slow right now. Here we go.
Another one of my favorite, it's tied for number 1 with Tidal Wave, but it's one of my favorite resources to go to is, y'all, in case you did not know, Texas is awesome. We all know this. New Jersey too and Louisiana is too. Who dat? Okay, anyway. So we have in Texas these amazing committees that look at all these reading lists that they curate and they put together for librarians, for teachers, for the betterment of reading, to instill love for reading. And so you have all these amazing lists. And my favorite list of all the lists is the Lone Star list. And one of the reasons why I fell in love with the Lone Star list is because it is for my age group, right? 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But I loved how much thought this committee does because it provides so many tools to print out and reference. And I can't be on this site all the time. And I love that they've given us, and every year it's the same thing, a printable version. They give us an annotated list, which is so helpful. I use this to promote books. I use it to tell the kids because I buy the Lone Star list every single year. I trust my librarian colleagues, public librarians, school librarians, academic librarians, special librarians. I trust their professional opinion when they select these books out of hundreds and hundreds of books. And so I use the tool that they've created for me to buy books. So every year I buy the Lone Star list and I promote it using their annotated list. And so if other kiddos, let's say they check out Amari and the Night Brothers and they want something else that's similar, they give us a few. Look at that. So awesome. If you like, you may also, if you like this, you may also like this. And so it's so neat that they do that. They give us a printable version of the list, which is this, right? Very useful when you're ordering your books. And then they also provide their archives, you know, past lists that they have as well. You can also email them. They're very approachable. I mean, shout out to Mel Silerio. She's part of this committee this year, this reading list. Woo, Mel, good for you. So yeah, I highly recommend. And another quick tip.
So Deb, I'm sorry, I think that cut off. So you're from Texas also. So Wendy uses that. How do you use it as well?
So I am on the Taysha's reading list. That's the 9 through 12. Similar to the Lone Star list. Yes. The whole idea between the two is, oh, my little pictures didn't pop up. They're there somewhere with the link. I don't know what happened to the link. That's weird. The link was there. Anyway, so what it is you have Lone Star is 6 through 8, Taysha's is 9 through 12, and there are 9 librarians on each. I know with Taysha's we read, I mean, I'm up to 103 books so far this year. We get books submitted by authors themselves, from publishers. We go out and we find stuff. Another great place to find a lot of these books is actually on Kindle Unlimited. We found a lot of independent authors that we're able to pull in, and we have to read them. And what we do with Taysha's is we meet every 3 to 4 weeks, talk about 10 titles. They have to have a positive review, and I will tell you 99.9% of the time it is a Kirkus review. And we sit and we discuss them. And in the end, in November, in November, we have our final vote. And we can have 50 books, we can have 125. It all depends on how the vote comes down. And we vote for 10 top 10, which can become a battle, because really we want is there an audience for this book? Can we hand this to a 9 through 12th grader? Can we hand these to a 6th through 8th grade? Sometimes a book will show up on both of our lists in the same year. However, if it's showed up, so Starfish, I don't know who doesn't like Lisa Phipps's Starfish. That was on Lone Star last year. We could not read it to vote on it this year, because once it's on the list, another list. And then the other ones we didn't even talk about. You've got Maverick. That's the committee. Amanda Hunt is the chair. Stephanie Galvan is on that. Karina Quintana. And that is for graphic novels from 6th through 12th grade. So you can imagine they do have a tough time, because they've got to try to find those reviews, at least one. And they'll go back into Permabound, CPI, Mackin, Follett to find all the reviews. So one of the arguments that I know a lot of districts are having now is, if this is on an award-winning list, that should count as a review, because it's 9 certified librarians who are taking the time to read these, to discuss the merits of the book, and to ensure that there's positive reviews.
So by the time a book makes any of these, because Texas y'all have several lists for different age ranges, and it's been reviewed. You've used the professional reviews, and you've had several librarians, and that's similar. We have a Louisiana Young Readers Choice Awards in Louisiana, and there's like 15 or 20 of us. So if I'm on the 6th through 8th committee, so if it's on the 6th through 8th list, you've had 15 to 20 librarians say it is, we've read this and say it's appropriate for this age range. Steve, do y'all have a New Jersey list?
We do. It's the Garden State Teen Book Awards, and we do the same thing. There's a list of I mean, every year the list seems to get bigger, but there's maybe 20 or 30 professionals that are looking through these books, and they have you have to have rationale for here's why this book deserves
Yep.
to be on this list. So I agree. It makes a lot of sense that that should be counted as a professional review.
And it has to be published before October 1st. So right now, the 23 list is any 2021 title and anything published up to October 1st. That also has, review from Kirkus School Library and Horn, whoever. So
my school is a 5th and 6th grade school, but we use the 6th through 8th grade reading list for our Battle of the Books. And I make sure to tell them this is for 6th through 8th graders. It's an optional reading program. And a parent said to me one time, well, what do you mean it's all librarians have voted on these books? What about parents? And I'm like, well, half of us on that, we're parents. Half of us, just because we're a librarian, like I have a kid, so they'll say the parents didn't have a say in this either. I'm like, well, half of us on that committee are parents. So I've run into that before, just throwing that out there. But I'm like, it's educators, school librarians, public librarians are coming up with these lists. And we do draw from the Kirkus and Horn, and the other list to help make these decisions. So, all right, moving on. Let's look at teachingbooks.net. Now, I have never used this for professional reviews, and Wendy has. So let me click on teaching books. Let's see what Wendy has to say about this.
Hi, you guys. Another great tool that I like, aside from the awesome, Follett, Mackin, Bound to Stay Bound, is teachingbooks.net. Now, as a Texas librarian, just a quick disclaimer, Texas has a resource bank called TexQuest. And Texas libraries, through the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, has access to teachingbooks.net. And depending on your district, if you participate in a consortium, like for example, my district participates in the Region 1 consortium, which means they just pay like a membership fee and they get a ton of resources for a fraction of the price. And we get teachingbooks.net with that as well. However, I wanted to show you guys how you can sign in just as a regular person, right? So I can go into sign in as an adult with Google, and I'm going to use my personal Gmail just so that you guys know how it would look. It does pick up that I am, I don't know how it links it that I'm in Texas or not. Maybe that's just me thinking things, but I've only used my Google sign-on. And what I love about teachingbooks.net is that it helps this professional review the books that I have. See what I did there? It's cool, right? Anyway, so what I love about this is that you have several resources, and I'm going to go into educators up on the top. I'm going to say for educators, and I wanted to show you guys just the neat ways that you can locate books, books that you want, or resources for books that you already have, just to build that communication collaboration with your teachers. I'm going to go to for educators, and let's go to diverse books. And what I love, I mean, look at the way that they categorize the books. Diverse book awards, diverse search by culture, search by subject, search by analysis reports on diversity and inclusion. So you get a lot of ways for you to search for diverse books. And I'm going to look for subject. Oh, I know you have to type something. Hold on. Let me go in here. You can search by grade level, which to me is the easiest one. The one that I'm looking at is I want 7th through 12th. I know I'm in 6th, 7th. I'm in the middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th. But I have kids that, read books that are high school level books. So I'm going to search that. And I'm going to leave everything else blank. And then it allows me to peruse a list of books that teachingbooks.net already has. It also lets me see how many resources there are for these books. Now, I'm going to be honest, I would not get the Poet X, for example, for my middle school. However, um, if I wanted to get for a special collection, or if I wanted to buy it, for a teacher or as a gift or what have you, I have these resources here to guide me. If I wanted to buy March Book One, I could click it, and then it would show me everything that it has as a meet the author recording, guys. That is probably one of my favorite things from teachingbooks.net. It has a plethora of authors, and I linked one on the PowerPoint of how you pronounce their name, the story behind their name. It is super neat and it's very personalized. I know it's just a recording in a bank in teachingbooks.net, but if you're going to listen to Kwame Alexander, it's going to be Kwame Alexander. And it's really neat, something to show the kiddos. So you have different types of resources. You have about the authors. You have any author interviews. You have 29 author interviews that you can use as resources. And these are all um, connected to March Book One. Now, another really cool thing that I can do is create different activities for the kids. I could make a word search and then download it and give it to the kids. Another thing that I like is, now this is blocked because I'm just a regular, I'm just signing in with my regular personal Google sign on. But if I were signing on with my school license, or if you had a purchase plan with teachingbooks.net, you could integrate it into your Google Classroom. You could embed it into your website. You could create flyers. You could create bookmarks and promote your collection that way. I like looking into teachingbooks.net because it helps me pick books that I know that I can pitch to the teachers and say, look, I got this book. It meets my diversity and inclusion goal. These
And I'm gonna pause it right there. Because I wanted to say, for teachingbooks.net, a lot of those resources that she was talking about, I've used those before. I've never used it for professional reviews, but maybe more like kind of like how we did with Goodreads and stuff. I've done that for like personal use. But they have, I know I have, we've done some author interviews and I wasn't quite sure how to pronounce the author's name. So I went on teachingbooks.net to learn how to pronounce it correctly because I didn't want to sound, completely ignorant when I was talking to the author.
I've used it to promote lessons to teachers, not necessarily for reviews.
But it got, I believe it was an ASL best website and app either this year or the year before.
I kind of got to know that, shouldn't I? Now that I'm on that committee, it's like, oh yeah. I think it was 2020, actually. Could have been.
I think it's been a while. Steve, have you ever used teachingbooks.net?
I've used it a little bit. The creator of the site would come to our annual conferences, and I ran into him a couple of times, and he kind of talked it up, and he gave out some, trial samples of it, and it's a really neat site. I think they just got bought out by a larger company, and I can't remember who it was, if it was Mackin or Follett or one of those, but
I do know that
getting folded
people are truly educators, a lot of English teachers. So that is what's key too about this tool. It's not just somebody who might be good at ed tech. It's somebody who knows books, who knows the background. So, and it is nice because it also lists awards. If you saw that on there, it shows that there's awards that it's either been nominated for or has won. So that's another plus if you were going to use it towards a review.
Yeah, it's a really great website. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Nope.
I was going to say, I usually hit up these four to get all the reviews in one place. And I know I mainly Mackin and Follett. I'll use Follett, and I'll let, do y'all want to talk about Follett first? And then I'll talk about Mackin. Do y'all use it?
I use both, but it depends. I'll use Mackin a lot for graphic novels. I do, like, if we can actually just bounce back and forth between the two. I think both of them you can do that when you're doing an advanced search. If your district requires 2 reviews, you put that number in there and then be like, okay, I want this tag. So I want romance or horror. And you're going to get, okay, I want the years 2020 to 2022 with 2 reviews. It's going to pull everything up, which again is kind of a bummer because there might actually be a few books that you might miss out on. But down the road, it may end up getting that second review that you need. So
I know I'll use them interchangeably. Like I'll go if I'm looking for a particular book and looking at a specific title, and it'll list the ages and grades, but there might be only 2 reviews on, say, Follett. So I'll head over to Mackin and they might have 3 or 4, or Mackin might have 2, and then I'll head to Bound to Stay Bound and I'll go back and forth and see what all the reviews are. But I've used Mackin a lot recently, and what you see on the screen is like, you can click full text reviews and it'll say age range, grades. And so if there's a book that, say, is controversial because it was 2 years ago, a parent did not like that I read The Undefeated by Kwame Alexander. And so I went to Mackin and I typed in Undefeated, and it had all the reviews, and I just printed it and I highlighted it where it said for ages blank, for grades blank, for this. And I gave it to my principal and I said, this is for even lower than the grades that are at our school. Like it's, and it's, look at all these starred reviews. And I would highlight, it shows all the starred reviews on there and the awards. And so you can get the other things that we were talking about, like Kirkus, Horn Book, Publishers, like all of those, Book List. You can find those on Mackin or Tidal Wave or Permabound or Bound to Stay Bound, those type of websites.
And
so
I like it also gives similar searches. There might be more titles that you can pull in that you didn't even know. Oh, okay, look at that. Pull the title up and bam, there's the review. Oh, okay. Let me pull that one into my collection.
I've been using Mackin so much the past couple of months, and I just totally spaced on the fact that this is there. And I'm so glad that you put this in because I've been running all over the place, and here it is right in front of me.
Well, and the cool thing is, like, I think it was Steve, you said earlier, was it you that said you make your lists, in Mackin? And I'll make these lists, and I won't have any money. So I will make these lists, and then I will go back to look at the books I want to purchase. And I love how you can upload your collection into there, and it'll tell you if you already have that title. So I might have gotten it donated. See, it's got the little, it disappeared from the screen, and so not only do I look at the professional reviews on Mackin, but it'll help me to know if I already have that title or not. Because I get confused. I'll have multiple lists going, and I'll order something and then forget what I purchased.
I think it gives a little symbol too that it's already in your collection or it's on another list. Because I've done SEL lists, I've done diversity inclusion lists, all that kind of stuff. And it'd be like, oh, this is already on the list. And I like how you have the ability to move the titles too from list to list, which is really helpful. And sharing. You can share that with people too. So like, was it, I think, Permabound, Amanda Hunt did a great list for the fall. And I'm like, hey, can I see that? She just shared it to my school account, and it's a PDF, but all I have to do is just like copy and paste, and then they go. So
I did that with Mackin too. A teacher had asked me for a particular topic. They were studying something. And so I created a list in Mackin and I sent it to her, and then we got some funds. So I went back to that list and just purchased. I already had it in there. You could email to those. So, but I will say, out of all the review places that we've talked about, the different professional review sources, not Goodreads, not Amazon, not all that business, the professional reviews, the one-stop shop with these book companies that will give you all of the reviews in one place. And you don't have to, you make a Mackin account. Like, so Deborah had asked in the question, she said, do you have to have an account with Mackin to use the reviews? You have to make an account, but it's free. Like you don't ever have to order anything from them.
No, it's true. And I will tell you, in my old district, when I really needed to look at the collection because it had originally years ago been the community library and the high school, it was a hot mess. So they said, make sure every title that you want is scanned in Follett. I took the record And I sent it over to them, and they just went, okay, here you go. This needs to go. This needs to go. Here's where you're weak. Here's where and it was all for free. I was like, what? They will do it all for free. They will. And that's the other thing too. It'll analyze your collection too. So you'll see where you're short. And Follett does it too, where you can do that super deep dive to say, wow, I'm really short on Westerns, let's just say. I really need to beef it up, I don't know, or memoirs or biographies, and it'll give you the average collection age and give you suggestions. Both of them are really good about that. So
yeah, and Mackin will do an inclusivity review for you of your collection, and then they'll also give you a list of, if you want to buy the books that will fill in these gaps in your collection, here you go, and just one click to order all that.
Charlotte asked a good question. Fiction seems easy to find reviews. What do you do about nonfiction? And I know that's a struggle too, because I know in our district, in our handbook, it's like a completely different process for getting biographies, nonfiction, whatever. And I know, is it Permabound will come and read for you and tell you what you need. I swear it was Permabound. They're like nonfiction queens, from what I understand. That might be something I hit up, because I look at some of these titles, I'm like, no, I don't need the nonfiction book over Easy Bake Ovens. You know, it's like I need new stuff. So I can check on that, but I swear that was who. It's either them or, I think it's them. They'll come and they'll do a whole full analysis for you, which is nice.
Steve, do you have a particular go-to for nonfiction?
I don't have a particular, like, I know if I go here, I will find what I'm looking for. It often turns into a little bit of a web crawl to just see what I can track down.
Yeah.
I feel like there is something niggling in the back of my head going, hey, there was that thing that you looked at, but now it has fled. So I'll have to ponder on that.
I do fiction differently than I do nonfiction. So with fiction, it tends to be where I need to CYA, cover myself. And so because of the topics and authors, and everybody's up in arms of the challenging and all that. Yeah. The nonfiction, so this is me personally, in my library, I look to get nonfiction that the kids are going to read, not necessarily for research, because we now use databases and things like that. So I look for what they're going to read. So I'll go to like Abdo or, Mackin or whatever, and I'll look at their nonfiction list. And I don't so much look at the reviews as to interest level. And if I think the kids are going to enjoy it, those that I find, and there's probably going to be something wrong with what I'm saying here, but what I find that the nonfiction is not going to be as controversial as the fiction. So I find myself maybe not looking as closely at the professional reviews for the nonfiction, more as, is it going to be something that the kids will read?
Yeah. And a lot of my nonfiction, I just grab stuff that I liked, that I read, that I was like, I think kids are really going to dig this. And because I'm middle school, high school, I've got a pretty decent feel for what they're going to want to dive into. So a lot of it is just, oh, I loved when I read this. I bet you they're going to like that. And then just like lists that I find online, Bookie Blog does great ones. Oh, shoot. Now I'm blanking again. But there's some great nonfiction lists out there that I'll just go and say, if this is stuff that is going fast, or that, people are saying, hey, I have trouble keeping these on my shelves, I'm going to start grabbing those. And like you said, I don't really look as much for reviews for those. I don't worry about it as much.
Yeah. I know the ones that go flying off the shelf is the Guinness World Record books. And because we're a STEM Academy school, anything that has to do with like maker stuff or STEM or some science fun stuff that I've been finding lately, like Bill Nye the Science Guy, all of a sudden I'll turn around and those books are gone. And I'm just like, wow, okay, well, I get an idea. I've noticed some nonfiction. What was the popular one? It was the chef one. I read it. It was really good. The black chef, he wrote about, it's a red cover. You know what I'm talking about? That's one I couldn't keep on the shelf. What's the other one? Not Punching Bag. Free Lunch by Rex Ogle. That's another one. The legendary poems. It's brand new. That's come out. That one keeps. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting a feel now for what these kids want to read. So that's what I'll get for nonfiction.
Christy got it. Notes from a young black chef. That's the
Thank
one.
you, Christy.
Christy's on fact checking duty
Love
tonight. She
that
is on
book.
top of
It
it.
is so good.
I'll
I
tell
know
you
that.
too. Sorry,
No, you go ahead,
nonfiction
Steve.
science stuff.
Yeah.
Randall Munroe. Randall Munroe he's a former NASA scientist who now does a web comic called XCD, and the web comic's not really for kids, but he has written, his books aren't like super for kids, but he wrote 2 books called What If. Well, one's What If and one is something similar to that. And it's basically like, what if you took a dinosaur and you fed it to the Sarlacc in Star Wars? Like, what would actually happen? And he takes like, okay, if that happened, here's what the like actual dimensions would be, and here's how stomach acid works. And like, he goes through the actual science of these crazy,
Wow.
like insane ideas. And he's also got a book called Thing Explainer. And he describes or explains how major things in our world work, like Atlas V rocket, but he only uses the top 1,000 most used words in the English language. So he has to come up with ways to explain, like, how do you come up with rocket ship engine? That's not in the top 1,000 words. So he comes up with these really clever ways of explaining stuff. The kids just so get into it. It's so
That's
funny.
Cool. Randall Moore or Munroe?
Munroe, Munroe.
Got it.
I know that my kids have been really into Kate Messner's History Smashers. And anything by Steve Schinken, anything nonfiction by Steve Schinken, but the Kate Messner's History Smashers, she keeps coming out with more like American Revolution and Titanic, and they like those. And I know I used to be a sports person, but I'm not a sports person. I don't keep up with sports anymore. So I will give when it's time to order books, I'll give the kids notebook paper and I'll say, list me all of your favorite sports figures. And so they'll give me the gymnasts and the volleyball players and the basketball and football and baseball. And I'll go into those like Mackin and I'll look up and see and I'll look at the reviews and the interest level and things like that, because I know that's going to be popular reads. But so I hope we answered that non-question question.
I'm like typing a list really quick. I'm like, all right, going on my middle school list.
But I also look at that when ALA does their awards in January, and I'll look at all of their lists, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, graphic, like whatever, and I'll look at those reviews. And anything that's age relevant for my collection, if it won any of those ALA awards, I put it in my wish list on Mackin or Follett or wherever I'm ordering books from.
That's actually where I go to for a lot of my nonfiction ideas. Is the Garden State Teen Book Award has a separate section for 612 nonfiction. So grab it.
I think I put together a Wakelet collection maybe a year or so ago. That's all the award lists. I think I got to find it, and I can probably just post it somewhere. I don't know. I'll throw it on the slide deck if we're going to share it or whatever. But then that's what's good to go back to fiction. I know Follett will put all the lists for Tay Shots, Blue Bonnet, Spot, what else? Lone Star. They're already there, and you just have to click, and boom, you've got a basket.
Mackin's got them too, I think.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of them.
Yeah.
I've been moving
That's
away
what's
from
really
Follett.
nice too. But again, what you want to do to go back to nonfiction is just email your contacts at Follett, at Mackin, or Permabound, and say, listen, I need for this grade level, I need $2,000 worth of popular nonfiction that the kids will read. You'll have that list within a day.
And then you could go through and look and see if it's already in your collection, and you can see the reviews on their websites and all of those, all of those book companies, you can get a free account to look at all their reviews. So hopefully we have given everybody some options for professional reviews and where you can go to find the professional reviews and things that maybe you want to use for personal use or whatever. I did put that the slide deck is in the YouTube description, so it should be accessible. Everything's there. All the links everything's in there. So we thank you for joining us. Steve and Deb, did y'all have anything else you wanted to say to close out?
Just reach out if you have any questions. I'm
100%.
sure you'll see us all on Twitter.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us. And we are signing off. And if you are interested in, let me throw in a plug. I'm doing a webinar on Friday with our public library. I'm in Louisiana. And so our Livingston Parish Public Library, which is the public library system in my district, they're going to do a webinar on how you can partner with your public librarian. So school librarian and public librarian partnerships, if you're interested, we'll be doing that webinar on Friday. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we hope you have a good night.
Bye.
See ya.